Hey, for Sunday, September 6th, 2020, this is the Pro and Con Show. I'm your host, Michael James. As always, welcome to the show. A few brief words at the start, as always, encouraging us to be better citizens, which means we have to understand each other more, have to reach out and try to understand the walk in life that our neighbors and friends and community members have had that get them to a certain position on some issue of importance, and ask them to listen to us, and then step by step we get this common ground and we start understanding that we can step away from the Hatfield and McCoy stuff that the political parties are foisting on us, and realize that we're all Americans, mostly centrists, mostly trying to go down the middle. Okay, some of us more right, some of us more left, but not a lot of radicals, especially in 80 or 90% of the population. So be better citizens by focusing on the facts, the who, the what, the where, and the when, and ignoring, neglecting, stop watching, stop paying attention to all the screaming heads on television or all the opinion and stuff, which is everything but the who, the what, the where, and the when. Okay? Be open to listening and then the different viewpoints. Okay. Now, today the show is called coup d'etat. Okay, it's a French term. And it means a coup. It means, to overcome the traditional government of a state with some non-normal transition of power. And I'm speaking about this because, there is. It's not just me. Certainly, it's not just me. There are literally millions of people around the country at this point that are concerned because Mr. Trump, being who he is. Okay, Mr. Trump is a billionaire. How many billions, don't know. But his one, so-called superpower, if you will, is tenacity. And he basically, hey, if I want something, I'm going to get it. I'm going to take it. The hell with the rules, the hell with the law. I'm doing this. If it's something that he wants, he will fight and fight and fight to do it or to keep it or whatever. And it certainly appears like he likes being president of the United States. At least he outwardly seems to like that. He especially likes going to these rallies where he can have, some thousands of people cheering him. He loves, loves the adoration. Okay, it's kind of like the actor who has to be on stage. Otherwise, he's not fulfilled. Okay, well, Mr. Trump loves the adoration of those crowds, and even though there's only whatever percentage of the country, something far less than 50%, that supports him these days, he certainly can still gather and have, some thousands of people in a gathering and have them cheer him and tell him how wonderful he is, and think that every gaffe and non-truth or whatever that he spews forth is great, and they just cheer him, and you're the best. They say stuff like he's the best president of all time and things like that to him, which of course he loves. And of course, the people in his administration, the people in his orbit, they've realized that that's what he wants to, and so they tell him what he wants to hear, because then he gives them influence and power to do what they want to do. But going back to the coup d'etat, okay, so it's looking more and more likely. The latest odds I saw was that it's less than a 30% chance now that Mr. Trump is going to win re-election. Now, to me, it's kind of amazing that there's even a 30% chance because, and again, this is not Republican versus Democrat, nothing to do with policy. The guy just inherently is a horrific person, number one. That's all the narcissism and stuff that is part of his personality. But two, clearly suffering from some early onset mental issues, early onset dementia kind of stuff. So there are times where he's perfectly lucid and making his arguments for whatever, but there's also a lot of times where he really struggles to put words together, and he has to default back to some very, very basic language. Bad, sad, mad, very, very basic language capabilities. And it's fairly frequent when he, has to kind of fall back to that kind of capability. So early onset dementia, probably, right in those doorsteps. And then, of course, all of the personality flaws, which, cause him to care about himself and literally no one else on the planet, including the whatever percentage of the population that continues to support him, and so, to which someday they'll figure out. So the whole point now is that's the coup d'etat. So he's just like before the 2016 election, he was saying, well, it's all going to be rigged. You're going to see, I'm going to lose because, they rigged the election. And then he won. And he won because of the Electoral College, but that wasn't good enough. He had to say, no, I did not lose the popular vote. There were millions of illegal votes. Now, there's since been not a shred of evidence offered by anyone, including he got these so-called blue ribbon commissions to try to dig up this information to show that there were millions of illegal votes. And there weren't. No one can find this, okay? Voting fraud is a very small thing. It's a very small percentage. And the reason why that is the penalties are very severe and the influence is really small. If you are successful and you change 1,000 votes or something, well, yeah, you change 1,000 votes, but wow, you have taken a huge, huge, huge risk of going to federal penitentiaries for a very long time in an election that, especially for the presidency, 1,000 votes. Wow, that fundamentally is the reason why the fraud stuff is just has no basis in fact, because it just doesn't pay to try to have that kind of influence, and fraudulently so. Anyway, so Mr. Trump it's looking more and more like he's going to lose the election. He's going to lose the popular vote. He's going to lose the Electoral College. Therefore, he's going to lose. And one of the things that we have always assumed, because basically George Washington, the very first president of the country, set the standard. He basically said, I'm this thing is not a monarchy. This is not someone to rule for years and years. This should be, one term, two term, one term kind of thing. And, someone needs to be elected and there has to be this, peaceful, reasonable transition of power from one president of the United States to the next. And Mr. Trump is, unless he radically varies from his normal self, the self that he has been for his entire 70 whatever years that he's been on the planet, he will not accept that he will lose. he's probably going to try to sue somebody, because that's what he does. He throws a bunch of lawsuits out there. He's going to try to get vote recounts or whatever. He's definitely going to tell the people that follow him, you know, in Twitter and all this other stuff, he's going to be broadcasting, I lost because it was, you know, a fraudulent thing, and all these votes, and the foreign governments and all this stuff were involved. And by the way, they're trying to be involved, but the reality is that, you know, our election system, because we have these local people, county clerks and stuff like that, that run this, you know, these outside influences are pretty small, because these, again, there's like hundreds of thousands of people involved with, you know, gathering up the votes and validating the tallies and coordinating with each other and cross-validating tallies and so on as the votes are tallied up. So Mr. Trump is going to lose, and then he's going to claim, you can bet on it, he's going to claim that it was all fraudulent and he didn't really lose. And this is the thing that the Constitution presumes that the president, you know, the outgoing president, the one that would lose the election, will leave office. It just presumes that he's going to do it, or she. We haven't had a she yet, but. And so there's very likely going to be 2 crises after the election. So it's going to take longer for the vote count to happen because of the pandemic and stuff and all the mail-in voting. But then eventually a victor will be declared. And if it is not Mr. Trump, you're going to see him say that, you know, the election needs to be redone, or all the votes were fraudulent or whatever. He's going to push that agenda, and he's going to push it in the public as well. He's going to be fomenting hate and mistrust of our election system, so that there's going to be whatever percentage of the country, 40%, 30%, 50, you know, 45%. There's going to be a large percentage of the country that pay attention to Mr. Trump, that believe in Mr. Trump, and they're going to think that the voting system is fraudulent. So we're going to lose trust in our fundamental architecture for how we work with each other, how we be better citizens, and so on. He's going to try in some form, especially if it loses, and right now it's a fairly high probability he's going to lose. He's going to try somehow to claim and that he should not be removed from power, and he should remain in the White House. And I don't know what's going to happen, you know, what kind of actions by the U.S. military, by the Supreme Court, and so on is going to occur that will try to oust him from that office if he chooses to not leave. It's a big issue, and you should be aware that it's coming, and be thinking about what your reaction is going to be, and how you're going to band together with your community to try to do what's right for this nation, for each other. Okay, this has been the Pro and Con Show. My name's Michael James Ott, and until the next show, bye for now.